guys, it's Trina and this is my monthly recommendations video for the month of January. Monthly Recommendations is a group created by Cahill and myself, and every month we give you guys a topic and ask that anyone who wants to jump in with books that they would recommend that fit this topic. As always, there's going to be a link to the group down below, and in January we are recommending historical fiction. So I honestly don't read a whole lot of historical fiction, but I am one of the group creators, so I didn't want to miss a month of doing one of our topics. So I do have a list of a few books that I really loved and want to recommend, but I'm just saying I don't read it often enough to feel like I am a go-to source to get historical recommendations. So maybe look at this video more as like a beginner's guide, or like if you don't think you like historical fiction, maybe these are easier to get into. I really don't know. Basically, don't let this be the only historical fiction recommendations video that you watch. I'm going to order these by time period, so I'm going to start with the furthest back time period, which is a prehistoric setting. I have really enjoyed the book Ivory and Bone by Julie Eshbaugh. This is young adult. It is a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice, but it's very loosely based on Pride and Prejudice. Like if you've read that one and you liked it, you're going to pick up on some of the similar elements, but because it is a prehistoric setting and because they don't end exactly the same way, I think it's very new and fresh, and I was very entertained by this book and I would definitely recommend it. Next is a book that I very hesitantly recommend that had a really big impact on my reading life. That is the Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory. This is set in the early 1500s in Tudor England, and most people know the story of King Henry VIII's second wife, Anne Boleyn. It follows Anne's sister, Mary Boleyn. This is a book that is based on real historic events, but Philippa Gregory has heavily fictionalized it, so I don't know how accurate it is or anything. And I do remember that there are some scenes in here that, again, I think I would probably look back on and be like, I don't know if I would really just recommend this book overall, but I picked this book up when I was in college. College was a time period in my life where I just wasn't reading outside of classes very often, and I saw a recommendation to pick this book up and read it with a book club because the movie was coming out, which, by the way, the movie was terrible, but I decided to pick this one up with all of my college roommates, and we read the book and then went and saw the movie, and this one kind of refreshed my interest in reading. And then I went on to pick up just a ton of books by various authors that were set in the Tudor time period, which I just found very fascinating. So it's not a book that I would necessarily overall heartily recommend today, but it was one that shaped my reading life and I wanted to mention it. The next series I want to recommend is the Cahill Witch Chronicles trilogy by Jessica Spotswood. The first book is Born Wicked, and this one is actually like an alternate history, so if I had to pinpoint a time period, it feels very much like this is kind of reminiscent of the Salem witch trials, so I would say this is set in like the 1600s in colonial America, and this is definitely a society that is very patriarchal, where the men are in charge, and women who are ever even suspected of having any kind of magical abilities are either executed or they are thrown into an asylum. And we're following three sisters who actually are witches, and so they are trying to keep their abilities hidden. There's a lot of girl power in this book where the women are trying to just gain more rights. I loved the sister relationships because they're full of both backstabbing and loyalty. I really loved the romance in this series. It was really great. I love how diverse all these side characters are. And the main character, Kate, is just a very morally strong character. I really love this series so much, and I'm going to recommend it forever and ever. Since I mentioned a retelling of this one before, I think it's only natural that I should probably recommend Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen here, which is set in the early 1800s. I think we all know about this one by now, but I will just tell you guys that I really liked this one. I had never read the actual book until just the year before last, and I ended up loving it so much more than I thought that I would, because I was familiar with so many retellings and reimaginings of it that I was like, oh, I already know the story, I don't need to read it. And then I finally read it and I really enjoyed having read the original work. So if you haven't read it yet, don't be intimidated. I think it's really great. I also want to very quickly mention that I enjoyed the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. This one is set in the 1870s in London. I really hesitate to mention this one because I don't recommend this one by itself, but if you have read anything else in Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunters world and you haven't read this one yet, I think it's great supplementary content. Although I have heard a few people say that they read it by itself and they still really enjoyed it, so I don't know, that's up to you. This is my favorite of her 3 series in the Shadowhunter universe that are out yet. I really like the characters and the relationships and the friendships and everything. I wanted to put it on this list because I knew that if I didn't, I'd get some comments like, but haven't you read Infernal Devices? I love that one, you should check it out. I've read it, I like it, I know. Next up, set in the late 1800s, is A Madness So Discreet by Mindy McGinnis. This is about a young girl who finds herself pregnant out of wedlock, and her father has her thrown into a mental institution to kind of cover up the pregnancy. And as she's in the institution, investigation, she crosses paths with a doctor who studies the brain, and he has a hobby of investigating crime scenes. So he just kind of has this deal with the police where if a murder happens, he comes and investigates to kind of put together clues to figure out what goes on in the brain of somebody that is committing murders or committing different crimes. And Grace finds herself working alongside him because she actually has perfect recall, like this incredibly photographic memory, so she is very useful in helping him put together these clues. And basically the overall gist is that this is kind of a thriller about characters working together to track down a serial killer. And to be noted, since it is historical, psychology has a long history of being very misunderstood and patients being very mistreated, and this book does not shy away from showing the dark past, but I felt like all this stuff in mental illness was treated very respectfully in this book. I really love it. You guys know I love Mindy McGinnis. If you're looking for a historical thriller, I think this would be one you might want to check out. Next up, set in 1920s New York, is the Diviner series by Libba Bray. This is a paranormal series following a group of different characters that each have these different abilities. So one girl can touch an object and see its entire past, and she uses this skill to investigate crime scenes and by going and touching one of the victims' objects, and that lets her see the last moments of their life so that she is trying to piece together what has happened with these different victims. This series does deal with ghosts, and it does have a little bit of a creepy vibe, so if you're looking for a creepy read, especially maybe around Halloween time, this one would be a great one to check out. I just really love the characters, and I love how Libba Bray has written the time period. It's just so fun. Like, the 20s really come to life. And also, if you get a chance and you prefer audiobooks, the audiobooks of this series are absolutely fantastic. The final book that I want to recommend on my list is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This one is mostly set in the 1960s. The premise of this book is that a teacher discovers a portal back in time, and he thinks it is his mission to go back in time and stop the assassination of President Kennedy. And I just thought that this was a very interesting take on time travel. I did really enjoy it, and I just think if you like sci-fi historical time travel stories, this would be a good one to check out. Also, I think this one would be a fine place to start with Stephen King if you have never read anything by him, because I think a lot of people are intimidated to read his books because he's a horror writer. This one isn't very scary. Like, it might give you chills by a couple of things that are being explored, but it's not a horror novel. There aren't like creepy clowns and ghosts trying to kill you and stuff, so I think this would be a fine place to start. I found this story so fascinating and I really love it, so I would recommend it. Those are all the books that I would recommend for historical reads, and again, don't trust my opinion as your number one opinion because I don't read that much, and because of that I would love to hear your recommendations. If you have read a historical novel that you really think that I would enjoy, that really fits like my reading taste, please let me know that down below. A couple of novels that I've been recommended a lot and I am totally meaning to get to them as soon as I can, I just haven't yet, but these are definitely on my radar, are Codename Verity, Salt to the Sea, and Wolf by Wolf. So I like really want to read these. Just want to kind of give you guys an idea of other books in this genre that I'm really looking forward to. Again, let me know your recommendations down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!